Hey everybody, this is Rich and this is Beekeeping with Rich. Today we're going to look at a beekeeper's toolbox. Why you need one or why not. Back when I started beekeeping 5 years ago, I built a beekeeper's toolbox because, like my wife says, I have to have one of everything. And I did not like any of the designs that I saw online, either Dedant or Man Lake or anybody else. I felt primarily that they were very deficient in the way that you held the smoker on, and I didn't think that they really did a good job of safely holding it. Hang on a second while this plane goes over.
Too long. Keep going.
Any rate, uh, you'll see this is built on the basis of a regular nuke box, deep nuke box, which most of them are. The main difference is on the bottom, instead of stopping it here, I made the bottom board come all the way out to the end, and then I just put two wings on it. This allows me to have a very, very safe, sturdy spot to put my smoker. At the same time, I use this thin piece of aluminum. As you'll see, there's other pieces of that same thin aluminum here. I put a thin piece of aluminum here in order to be able to drop a hive tool, a knife in position, doesn't interfere with the smoker whatsoever. There we go. And it also is a very convenient place to drop frame grabber if you use one of those. Not at the least bit unsturdy or unstable, nice and secure, done this way. I actually made this latch over here so that it could be taken in from the side.
Can't see the latch.
Basically, that latch hasn't been used in all these years because once I got it bent to the right position, never needed to be moved again. Question is, what goes inside the box? Well, if you're using it as a nuke box, really the answer is nothing. What's the use of an empty box? Well, frames, of course. The thing is, a nuke box, a beekeeper's box, one box can't be everything. If your goal is to go out and do maintenance on your hives, that's one set of tools and equipment, duct tape, things like that. If you're going out to do hive inspections, well then, you need alcohol and you need a varroa counter and things of this nature. If you're going out to do a swarm removal, you need other things. This box, particularly since I put the mailbox up in my backyard, only gets used pretty much for swarm removals. And I can set it up for that. When I do that, I take several frames, I put rubber bands on them, I have extra rubber bands inside. I put everything I need to do to help someone with a swarm removal. My smoker, my hive tools, most importantly, probably, these bread knives from the thrift store. You get yourself a 10-inch or 12-inch bread knife, you heat the ends with a torch, bend one at a 45-degree angle, you bend one at a 90-degree angle so that you can get in places to get comb cut out of odd places. Always going to have my feather available because that gets up into tight places. Since there's shiny stuff on the front of this, that's where the bee brush goes, as it was originally designed. Stays nice and secure there. But really, all things considered, a bucket is a much better choice for your general purpose bee box. You don't really need this as long as you remember to dump your smoker and let it cool. You put a hot smoker in a plastic bucket, it's going to melt. If you put a hot smoker in a plastic bucket that's got one of those bucket buddies around it, it's going to melt even faster. You don't want that to happen. I have a friend who smoker fell over in the back of their car and they were going down the road with a slow smoldering fire going in the back of the car before they figured it out. That was no fun. You don't really need one of these. If you're going to build, try to convince your significant others not to get you one for Christmas, because that's where most of these get sold. I have a sneaking suspicion. And they're ridiculous for the most part. They do work well for removing frames of honey. When I did long langs and such, and what you do is you go in and you remove a complete frame of honey here and a complete frame of honey there. They're terrific for that because you drop the frames in here and you close the top. They're worth it for that one purpose alone. They're worth it to store frames that you are going to use for swarm removal, because you can have your frames already set up in there, rubber bands on them. You got more rubber bands piled in the bottom, but this gives you a good start on that. Presumably, since you know you're going for swarm removal, you're going to take a box with you anyway. But if it's a small removal and you just want to use this, didn't point out to you in the construction notes that I have a vented screen high on one side and lower on the other side behind where the smoker and all that goes, so that you have good ventilation regardless. The slot. So when I started using this, I was still a top bar beekeeper transitioning to long langs. So you'll notice the slot cut right here. That's so that you can drop a piece in here, and the shorter frames that were used in the top bar hive, 17-inch frames, could be set in here the same way, which is one of the reasons I say that this is a terrific way to harvest frames of honey and keep the bees out of them. It's sturdy, it's easy to lift the lid, it's easy to close the lid. So this is a great box for harvesting, but unless you're harvesting honey, this really isn't a practical box for those purposes. But when you are harvesting and doing things like that, you can of course place this way. Those slots are designed. Just holding that up. The slots are designed so that it can be carried like this, turn it around and use it like this. Those slots, as narrow as they are, you can see by comparison with a dime, bees, believe it or not, can still crawl out of them, but they rarely crawl back in. So if there are still a few bees hanging around on a frame, they crawl out, but they don't go back. And while they may be sniffing around up in here, they're rarely inclined. But if they do, you can take a leaf, fold it in half, stick it in there, blocks it off with no problem.
And what's the wire on the top for?
The wire on the top is so that if you do have a hot smoker you're in the midst of using, this is a safe place to put it. Not to say there may not be other safe places to put it, but just in case there aren't any other safe places to put it, i.e. you're working with a plastic table or something, just make sure you have a good, secure, safe place to put your smoker while it's in use and while it's hot. Because this little bit of rabbit cloth here does the job. Keeps it off the board, because otherwise you could get a little charring going on. What do you keep in a box like this? Again, it depends what you're going to do with it. You might want to have an extra entrance reducer, certainly a cleaning tool that allows you to clean excluders, clean the edges on a frame, act as a bee tool, whatever. These things are terrific. They're bulky if you want to try using one as a actual hive tool, but as a cleaning tool, they do it all in one. Even a little hammer to let you not drive a few nails in case you got a broken frame or something. It's just all the different things that you may need, you can throw in a box of this nature. but you don't really need this box so much as a good plastic bucket will do most of the time. So please don't waste your money buying one commercially. Either come up with your own design or just use a plastic toolbox without a tray in it, or a bucket, or people who just use a good heavy sturdy bag will carry everything, because otherwise guaranteed everything's going to get carried on the passenger side of your truck. And that's why the passenger side of a beekeeper's truck usually looks an awful lot like the local dump. So that's it, Beekeeping with Rich for the day. These can be fun to make and design and use, but there's more practical things than a beekeeper's toolbox out there, I do believe. Have a great day and stay warm. Bye.